Hey everyone, this is Ben Sheen with Gaming Illustrated, here to talk about Bloodborne, the Old Hunter's second boss fight with the Living Failures. At the top of the research hall, players will encounter the Living Failures, which is multiple versions of this alien-like creature that's pretty similar to the aliens players may have encountered in the base game. What these appear to be are the failed experiments of the Healing Church's attempt to make contact with the Old Ones, or to get closer to the celestial entities that they began to worship. Compared to the first boss fight, Ludwig, the Living Failures is a cakewalk. Most of my frustration actually stemmed from playing this game on New Game Plus, where the difficulty is amped up exponentially. But for some reason, the Living Failures became kind of enjoyable and was representative of much of the second half of my experience with the Old Hunters. Instead of being constantly barraged with enemy NPC hunters and bloody dogs and blood spiders, the game took those diseased, disgusting patients and threw them at you, allowing you a moment of patience to sort of guide them along the hallways and, take them on individually, skirt them around the edges. Things that I enjoyed about Bloodborne originally, instead of being constantly exhausted from the multiple fights and the multiple enemies. And I found that the Living Failures was actually pretty entertaining boss fight. Not only was it beautiful, it was creepy with these enemies that just kept spawning. You always had to be on your toes. You always had to watch your back, making sure that you didn't leave an opening for 2 or even 3 of these Living Failures to attack you. In a way, it's representative of those one-on-one dances that are Bloodborne at its best, which the first part of the Old Hunters kind of lacked, especially the misery of being 1 or 2 shotted by much of Ludwig's attacks. I just found a lot of this fight epic, a little bit creepy, and honestly fun. The long sweeping attacks and headbutts that these Living Failures can do are pretty devastating, but if you're good with dodging, rolling away, you can avoid them. Of course, I had a little bit of help here, but I think that's where Bloodborne really shines, is when you take on bosses or difficult areas with the help of another player. You can kind of work together, experience the game with 2 hunters instead of just 1. And, of course, it does make the game a little bit easier, especially where I was in it, because, let's get this straight, the Old Hunters is tough. The recommended level is 65, but I've heard many people having trouble with Ludwig. And surprisingly enough, this part of the game was, I don't want to say a breeze, but it was enjoyably difficult. Of course, in this section, I almost failed due to the magic attacks. I mean, you get right down to the wire, and that's when the pressure really builds up. You don't know if you're going to live or die. And I was dodging for dear life, and it was a beautiful save, but I calmed my nerves, steeled myself, and took it on. It was a very enjoyable boss fight. I had a lot of fun, and it began the upswing of my experience with Bloodborne, the Old Hunters. Thanks for watching.